What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Friday. A lot going on, as always. Awards being handed out, offers being handed out, portal visits, a lot going on at the University of Miami. We will bring it all to you, as always, daily on the Canes Insight Podcast live. First, I want to talk about some folks that also are on point every single day. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
Happy Friday, D.
Happy Friday to you, man. I like this little pattern here going live around lunchtime. I get a little hungry during the show, but it's nice to be talking to people during their break. The thing gets packed. I've had thousands of people on lately. It's been awesome, man. Community's been bumping. Really enjoying these shows.
Yep, appreciate everyone who's on here live with us as we get into the latest with the transfer portal here at Miami. So, D, before we get into that, we do have some news in terms of awards. Pretty big one handed out last night as Cam Ward wins the Davey O'Brien.
So quarterback U is quarterback U again, the best quarterback in the country, which we already knew, but has been confirmed. Cam Ward, Davey O'Brien Award, #1 quarterback in America. Just an awesome honor for him, for his family. You know, happy for he's been such a breath of fresh air with the way he acts, the way he thinks, the way he plays. He is exactly what you want in a Miami Hurricane quarterback, the face of your franchise, your leader. So you like to see him get rewarded. Plus, big picture with the program, you can't say your quarterback you based on guys that played in the 80s. It needs to be present. So now you could say, listen, you want to play quarterback for Miami, be the next Cam Ward. You know, be that next Davey O'Brien winner, be the next person with your picture up in the IPF. So just super jacked up about this. And also that whole thing about Mario being the quarterback killer, I think we could put that to rest with the success of Cam Ward, which, look, he was a stud before, but to go from day 3 pick to day 1 pick and to go from guy that's fun to watch late nights on Saturdays, you know, Pac-12 after dark, to one of the faces of college football, the Davey O'Brien winner, much different. So shout out to everybody at the University of Miami, all the coaches, all the offensive line, all the receivers, tight ends that made this possible for Cam Ward, but most importantly for Cam Ward and his family. Just awesome, and an awesome moment too here at practice when he told him.
You're up for it, you know, Cam. The two guys that I've wanted here in our entire history have been Vinny Testaverde, Gino Torretta. You know, you're a finalist. Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning, Vince Young, Kyler Murray. All these guys have won it, okay? But last night that wasn't real, but today it is. You won it. Davey O'Brien.
Everybody in this group, appreciate y'all, coaching staff, walk-on scholarship players, man. Without y'all, I wouldn't be here. Without the benefits, I wouldn't be here. So, you know, that's what it's small for. It's for all y'all, man. I appreciate everything y'all did for me. I mean, I'm just trying to win one more game with y'all boys.
So you get the confirmation there as well, even more confirmation if we need any more of it, that he's practicing and getting ready for the bowl game as well. So congratulations to Cam Ward. What a season, and a really cool moment there, like you said, for Coach Cristobal and the team.
Yeah, and, you know, people trying to diminish the bowl. And obviously, look, everybody knows what the goals were this season. So, I mean, it's obvious to everybody. We don't need to go through what the actual goals were that were not met. But for people trying to diminish this bowl is unimportant. Watch that video. Our boy Mike Ryan, got to send him that clip. He was trying to talk down the prestigious historic Pop-Tart Bowl. But look, it means something to these players. Obviously, it means something to Cam Ward. And you really, really want to see him go out on top and the team go out on top with the 11th win, which would be the best season that Miami's had in, 22 years. So still a lot to play for, even with the immense disappointment of what happened against Syracuse. So looking forward to this game, man. And every time I see one of these clips, it gets me more fired up for what's still to come in this season, as we also keep an eye towards the future and talk about the transfer portal comings and goings and the names to watch in the portal, of which there are plenty.
But of course, D, the news of the morning, as Bossman D-Lo dropped his album D-Lo Curry, and No Cap featured on the song What You Need with a reference to Cam Ward and Jacoby George. The Apple Music lyrics were a little off here. It says, I'm in Miami slang. It's I'm in Miami sliding in the Huracan, the Lamborghini Huracan. And then, of course, Jacoby is misspelled there, but 100%. It was a shout out to the guys. So that was really cool. And No Cap's the GOAT at sports references and songs. So
I'm glad you're here to provide context to the metaphors, and you can still do that as you enter your 30s. So I'm proud of you.
I've entered the 30s already. So it's I'm holding on for dear life with this stuff for sure.
Yeah, I was gone 10 years ago, but that's why you're here. Maybe, Trenton will replace you once you're unable to decipher these lyrics. So anyways, there he goes. 954 say Cap the GOAT.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, and
Rock and Rant had this question. I've seen this question a couple of times. I don't know if this is what you were getting into, D. But from what I understand, it has nothing to do with NIL deal requirements. There's nothing in these contracts that said they literally can't say if you don't play in a certain game, you're not getting paid your NIL money. It's completely against the rules. Again, as someone who's worked and done these deals before and understand what they look like, that's not. Now, are other schools maybe trying to get away with certain things in terms of like timing of stuff? Maybe. But from my understanding, that's not happening at Miami, and it's kind of frowned upon if that is in there. So I don't think it has anything to do with it. I can't speak on Milrose's situation, but for Cam, no.
Yeah, no on Cam. And I think really you see this with the NBA a lot, is especially with these guys, they're all friends. They're all peers. We know Cam and Shedeur are friends. I don't know if Jalen Milrose also in that crew. I mean, he's from Texas, so you would think they have some kind of relationship. But in the NBA, with these guys all being friends and looking at each other as peers and everything else, it's almost, I don't want to say it's following trends. It's the wrong way to look at it. But when people that you look at as your equal do something, it makes you more likely to do it yourself. And these are the people you're competing against. They're your friends, but you're trying to measure yourself against them. So when a Shedeur Sanders says, I'm playing in the bowl, of course, his dad is the coach. Now Cam's saying, I'm going to sit there at home and watch and train while Shedeur puts on a show in his bowl. Jalen Milroe, probably the same thing. So I think that's part of what this is. It's almost a domino effect, right? Competition. And if he did it, why can't I do it? Is his body less fragile than my body? So I think that it has a lot to do with it. Also, I think quarterback stock is more durable to an injury. Sam Bradford was injured, not in a bowl game. I don't think it was a bowl game. I think it was in the regular season. But Sam Bradford hurt his shoulder, which is the most serious injury you could have as a quarterback, his throwing shoulder, and he still went number one. So I think it's a running back, which, by the way, David Martinez says he's going to play. But I mean, like a running back, a corner, a wide receiver. I can see how an injury.
Who was it? It was Jake Butt, who had that really bad knee injury for Michigan that pretty much ended his career in the Orange Bowl game against FSU.
And Jalen Smith from Notre Dame too.
Yeah, Jalen Smith. That was the worst one.
Right, and those were bad. Like those were particularly bad injuries. But a quarterback, I think the stock. If the worst thing happens, you're okay. Plus, you have insurance. So if the actual worst thing happens,
that's what Fish Fan Miami just said as well.
Yeah, they do.
Now the insurance, you will get paid, but it's still not potentially everything you could have made. But and then Rock and Rant, just to fall on your follow-up question here, negative feedback. I think it's more what D's saying in terms of like trying to keep up with the Shedeurs in terms, not because he's a copycat, but just because they're competitors. And look, having worked with NFL scouts and dealing with these guys, they don't really look down negatively on players opting out or opting in. Yes, it can be looked at as a positive, but if they opt out, it's also not really looked at as a negative, because what scouts would always tell us is like, we've had XYZ amount of years, some guys more than others, amount of tape on a guy. If we need one more game of tape, then we're probably not very good at our job.
But look, you're a quarterback. It's got to be a positive to say, hey, this guy really cares about winning. He's taken this team to a place where they haven't been in 22 years as far as winning. He won the bowl. If he does all these things, so it doesn't hurt. It's right. A nice little. For a quarterback, right, who's a little unique in terms of their role on the team, as opposed to like, just a lineman or a linebacker or something.
Well, and look,
I don't hurt him, but it might help him. I'm saying
I don't want to go too much on a tangent on this. As Kyle says, agents push the injury stuff. The thing is, it's a legit issue, and it's not just the long-term effects of it. More so, it's even you're playing in a bowl game in late December, January, the draft's in April. The amount of money, if you're not a first-round pick if you're a first or second or third-round pick projected and you get an injury, your signing bonus is going to be significantly less if you drop in our late-round pick. So it's more so even that, which, yes, of course, the agents they want their guys to make their money and not get hurt. But for the players, like, that's a huge potential difference for one game that may or may not mean a lot. So again, at the end of the day, it's a huge, we're commending these guys for putting it on the line and playing, right? I'm just looking at it from the other side and knowing that, yes, there are legitimate risks. And it's not just like a career-ending injury, D. It's like, if you're not ready to go for the combine, it's not that you may not be ready to play your next NFL season, but if you can't do pro day, combine, training for all this stuff, then you wiped out your entire draft process.
Yo, no, I hear you. It's look, I get the logic. A great point here by Kyle, who says, Willis McGahee made $32 million, Jalen Smith made $33 million. So then those were on the high end of gruesome injuries and at positions where you got to run.
And getting drafted in a specific spot is way different because of the guaranteed money in the first couple rounds there compared to after that. So that's the big difference we're talking about here, Kyle. I'm not saying it's a career ender necessarily, but if you drop a few rounds, you're costing yourself a lot of money.
By the way, we have breaking news, and it's something I hinted at earlier today on Canes Insight. Let me just send you a tweet, Pete, so you can pull it up. But Gabby Urrutia, a guy from 247, just reported that Washington State cornerback Ethan O'Connor is on a visit to Miami. That is not a surprise. I was actually told this morning that he was probably making it in. There's the tweet. Someone had mentioned earlier today, it was reported that we were getting visits from Eric Rivers, who we've talked about on this show, and also Emmanuel Carnley, the corner from Arizona, who we talked about on this show. And I mentioned it on CanesInsight.com, which, by the way, if you're not on the Canes Insight transfer portal board, people at the link I sent you early, I sent you in the private chat. If you're not on the Canes Insight transfer portal board, you got to be on it. You got to be on our free forum, 7 million posts and counting, all free. You're going to get information that you don't get anywhere else first for free. This is a post I made earlier today. I said, when it was reported that Carnley was visiting and was reported that Rivers was visiting, I said, there might be one more that they're keeping quiet. Stay tuned. Of course, that is this visit right here with Ethan O'Connor to Miami. As far as a visit, he's by Pete. You're probably wondering why Ethan O'Connor was our Beacon Adjusters prospect of the day.
Listen, I wasn't wondering. I've been watching a lot of the stuff people have put out there on him, and he looks really good, man.
Well, you know what? Here, listen, we already prepped it, right? So that's a transition. We'll just get out of order. Let's go to get your Beacon Adjusters. You're on top of it, man. What can I tell you, man? You're on your game these days. So the Beacon Adjusters prospect of the day is Ethan O'Connor out of Washington State. This to me is we just confirmed here that he is visiting at the University of Miami today, along with Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona. I think Miami would like to get both of these guys, both tall, talented, redshirt freshman corners from the old Pac-12. Ethan O'Connor from Washington State, which is currently in the Pac-2. So redshirt freshman with 3 years of eligibility. This year as a redshirt freshman had 32 tackles, 4 INTs, 12 passes deflected against 6'1", 175. He was at Oklahoma visiting yesterday, in Miami today. Had an overtime interception against San Jose State and a go-ahead pick 6 to beat Fresno State. So major ball hawk, timely plays, very aggressive. The pick against Fresno State, he said that they ran the same play twice. The second time he read it, picked it off, won the game. Had some pass interference penalties because he's an aggressive player, but you like the instincts. He's always around the ball. 21.7 miles per hour reported on that Fresno State pick 6, so he can move. 11:03 personal record in the 100 meters, which, that's solid speed. I mean, he's not like, 4.3, but he can run at his height uncle played at Washington State. He's from Los Alamitos, California, the Anaheim area of California. So he's a city kid. He was going to go to UCLA, had an academic issue, also played wide receiver, 4 touchdowns. So that's the Beacon Adjusters prospect of the week. And I think this is a kid, Pete. We talk about guys that you really want to add here. Obviously we're after a lot of guys, but guys that you're really hoping that we can get in on. To me, this is one of them. For me, I love this kid and the length, the ball production, the
ball skills, man.
With.
Yeah, the ball production, like you said there, and got some speed, and length, and the multiple years of eligibility. I keep harping on it, but I really, really like that aspect of it when you have a guy like him that you can bring in and have for a few years here.
100%. Someone's saying D with that cheeky wink in the post. I like to give you guys, here's what I'll say, especially with this portal period. There's a lot of secrecy because you say someone's visiting, and then the next day the Florida Gators pay him a ton of money not to visit you. So you got to just work in silence sometimes. I try to say as much as I can on here and try to steer people in the right direction. And sometimes I'm kept in the dark more so than I've been in the past, just because they're trying to keep this portal thing tight. But this is one, again, you don't want to say anything till they're on campus. That's why I gave that little wink about another visitor along with Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona, the 6'3" redshirt freshman corner. Again, 2 long athletic corners. I think both played receiver in high school as well, both from the West Coast. Emmanuel Carnley is from that East Bay area, east of Oakland, west of Stockton. And then O'Connor is from California, from Los Angeles area, Anaheim. So you're talking about 2 California long corners with ball production, former wide receivers, a lot of talent, 3 years of eligibility for both of them. Get them in. See, Miami's going to try to get both of them. We'll see which one they can get, if not both. And then you could develop those guys along with OJ Frederick himself, a long former wide receiver with ball skills. But these guys can do some damage if you're throwing the ball in their direction. If a storm does damage, if a property's been affected by Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, any other storm, doesn't have to be Florida, it can be across the country. Beacon Adjustors Group is here to help. With years of experience handling storm-related damage, we work tirelessly to ensure you get the compensation you deserve. From assessment to settlement, our team of trusted experts will guide you every step of the way. Don't face the aftermath alone. Let Beacon Adjustors Group restore your peace of mind. Call us today, 954-466-4224, 954-466-4224. That's Beacon Adjusters. Again, anywhere in the country, they'll take care of you. But our Beacon Adjusters prospect of the day, very timely, is Mr. O'Connor from Washington State. So excited about that visit.
Yeah, no, me too. Obviously a position of need. And as Bagging Up says, need impact players on D.
Yeah, and he had a question here. Let me talk about this here. He's saying Kane Sports saying that Miami's targeting depth instead of impact playmaking, proven talent, don't want to pay for difference makers. That's not true. I don't know if that's what they said and it's just being mischaracterized here. Not that you're doing it on purpose, Bagging Up, but that it's getting lost in translation. No, that's not true at all. Here's what I've learned. So you notice in the offensive line room, Miami's offering certain players that haven't played a ton at their previous stop. Klein from UCF, a center Miami recruited a couple years ago. He jumps in the portal without really playing at UCF. Miami extends an offer. Kavion Broussard, who was a commit last year for Miami, flipped to Ole Miss before signing day, redshirted this year. Miami gets an offer. You're saying, why is Miami offering offensive linemen they haven't played? With the offensive line position, you are trying to build depth because your scholarship limits have been raised to 105. At the same time, you got to cut down your roster. So more scholarships, less roster spots. You cannot have a lack of bodies on the offensive line when you start losing walk-ons, because if you don't have offensive linemen, you can't run scout team. You can't run practice. You need 5 for each unit you put out there, third team, scout team, whatever. You need 5 guys. And if they can't block at all, it's very hard to run a good practice. So it's twofold. You're losing walk-ons, but you're replacing them with scholarship players that you're hoarding, that you don't need to play right away, that are not, expensive players, right? But they can be developed. Your best developer on your staff's Alex Mirabal. He can develop those guys. And if some of those guys hit that you're hoarding, these young offensive linemen, now you got a cost efficient player at important position on the offensive line. Cornerback, defensive tackle, you're looking at big ticket items, a lot of money being spent at those positions because they are premium positions of need. I think with defensive tackle, talking to sources, in the past, you've seen 3 or 4 guys come in, right? This is the freshest info I have. Defensive tackle in the past, we've seen 3 or 4 guys because we've had such a need there. The goal here, this period, you could get multiple, but I think more you're looking for one premium guy. Is it Keyshawn Silver? I think he's still in the mix. Is it David Blay from Louisiana Tech, we're going to talk about here in a second? He's in the mix. You want to get a premium player with a premium body type at that position to go next to Justin Scott, your 5-star from last year who played this year. Ahmad Moden, who had an excellent junior year and looks like a really good ACC defensive tackle. And then Josh Horton, who's been up and down as far as health, but has flashed in practice, and they look at him as a guy they want to build around the future. Maybe he has a year like Moten did this past year. So you're not trying to just rebuild the room with the defensive tackles in the portal. You're trying to add somebody that's a real difference maker, real good body type, a premium dude, and it's going to be expensive. It's corner, you're getting multiple premium guys with big-time talent, whether they're young guys like O'Connor, like Carnley, or somebody even older. But you want, at those positions, they're looking for guys that have played. You're not taking FSU-type guys that are just basically going off someone's bench into your roster. That's not what Miami's going to do as far as the premium positions. Offensive line, a little different for the reasons we discussed. You're not counting on those guys. But for the positions you need guys to help you next year, you're getting guys with snaps, and you're getting guys with big-time talent, big-time physical ability that you can project developing into impact players. So that's the story with those positions. Someone
who could be an impact guy, though, is Cameron Calhoun.
Yeah, and there was a question here about Cam Calhoun, so I don't want to skip whoever asked it. But yeah, so there we go. Matt Jackson asked anything on Cam Calhoun, absolute stud at Utah. So wanted to highlight Calhoun. 247 reported there was interest here. Of course, he showed that Miami had offered. This is a 6 foot, 177-pound cornerback at Winton Woods in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is the all-time interception leader at the school. There's big-time football out there in Cincinnati. It's where you got Zach Carpenter last year at the portal. But Cincinnati, Ohio is a big-time producer of talent. It's a pipeline to Ohio State and Michigan. Cam Calhoun actually signed with Michigan, played 2 games, redshirted during their championship year, ends up transferring to Utah, gets 21 tackles as a redshirt freshman, 9 pass breakups, and an INT. Former wide receiver. He's noted for his work ethic, 110-meter hurdler, 300-meter hurdler, regional qualifier in both as a sophomore. So this is an interesting guy. Again, you're talking about what's the pattern you're seeing. Old Pac-12 teams, right? When you talk about Utah, Arizona, and also Washington State, guys out west. This guy's originally from the Midwest, but playing out west. Guys that are redshirt freshmen, so they got 3 years of eligibility coming up, and they played. So you're looking at college film when you're evaluating them. They're both projections because you're saying, all right, the redshirt freshmen, you expect them to get a lot better, but you're not just pulling them off someone's bench like Earl Little. These are guys that have played, and you can watch them play. So the profile that you're seeing at defensive back is consistent. I'm told there's a lot of guys on this list. Corner is a wide net of a certain talent level. If you're at a certain talent level, Miami's going to go after you hard. You're not going to get them all, but you're expecting to reshape this room with length, with talent, with upside, with eligibility, and with experience. That's the goal.
And Utah has produced corners recently that have gotten drafted highly. Jalen Johnson, one of the best corners in the NFL for the Bears. Clark Phillips coming out was a big deal. He's with the Falcons now, I believe. But yeah, they've done a good job recruiting and developing them over there. And Calhoun seems like he would have been next in line.
Yeah, by the way, up the ball is 1,200 in the live. So please like and subscribe to the show. We're doing this every single day. We are on every day talking portal, talking recruiting, talking coaching changes, talking everything. Like and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate you. Jacoby Greggs, always a valuable supporter here. He's saying we definitely need DBs, long, lengthy guys. You saw in Syracuse, those contested catches. They got big man a lot, these receivers. So you do want to add some length along with guys that can run and flip their hips. Length is essential. I mean, you could have the best corner in the world. Remember Brandon Harris, All-America type corner. Then we played some of the bigger teams like Oklahoma, Malcolm Kelly, and he got big manned a few times. And you said, wow, that's why length's important, right? That's why Artie Burns and Michael Jackson and DJ Ivey, who are the corners that have played in the NFL from Miami. They're all the longest guys, right? D. Delaney, guys with length. They play at the next level.
Looks like Gio's saying that Kyron Drones is returning to Virginia Tech. Is that official?
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah,
Virginia,
it is. They actually tweeted it out. Okay,
they announced it. It's interesting
it's interesting that they officially announced it, like it was a re-signing.
Yeah, so you're seeing now. You're seeing collectives re-sign. CJ Bailey from NC State. They announced he was being re-signed to the collective. So that's what it is these days, man. It's the 2024. It's the world we live in. Yeah, shout out to Artie Burns, still in the league.
Still playing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, D, you mentioned this guy a few moments ago here, and there's a lot of comments about defensive tackle right now in the comments. David Blay from Louisiana Tech. Isn't that a guy like a magician or something?
David Blaine, look at you with a pop culture reference. I got to call Mike and tell him.
Is that pop culture? I don't know. But first team all conference this year. Louisiana Tech put out some highlights here from the season. Can really move, man.
Yeah, and this is your classic kind of late bloomer. When you look at him, he was out of the Philadelphia area. So he's from Bucks County, right outside of Philadelphia. No one wanted him. He went to Truman High School in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Again, Bucks County. Signed with Westchester University in Pennsylvania out of high school. He was a lot smaller. He was 6'2", 280 at that time. So he grew to where he's now 6'4", 303 at Louisiana Tech.
We've got a Westchester down here.
Oh, yeah, we do have Westchester. I'll be out there watching I'm going to Pitbull Stadium after this podcast to watch Darian Coleman and Jones High School take on American Heritage, Malachi Toney. A couple Canes going at it. 2 Cane quarterbacks in this game because Malachi Toney's playing quarterback. So that's going to be fun out there in our Westchester, a little past Westchester and Sweetwater. But anyways, yeah, so Westchester University for David Blay. Blows up there, goes to Louisiana Tech, ends up going to a whole nother level at Louisiana Tech. This year, you're talking about 46 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. And here's what I love. In his last 6 games, 5 of those 6 games, he had a sack. So not only did he break out, but he broke out late. So he's really flying into the portal. He's getting a ton of interest from a lot of schools. Penn State, of course, he's originally from Philadelphia. Arkansas, Illinois, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Mississippi State, a lot of teams after a defensive tackle like this with the length and body type, and Miami is one of those teams. Again, look, you're not looking for a ton of guys if you're Miami at this position. You're looking for good ones that can hold the point. This is one of them.
Yeah, you've got, as you see here, you got the big boys after him: USC, Oklahoma, Penn State. He's playing the Illinois visit as well. So. And like you said, D, he hasn't locked in a visit with Miami yet, right? But I think that he's the type of guy that probably it's a fluid board for him right now because he's getting so many people coming after him.
Yep. Yeah, it's if you're a defensive tackle, man, you're gonna get attention. That's the name of the game. I mean, even the bad ones that just have high school accolades get attention. This guy is the other way. He's a guy that was underrated and is on the way up. You like that when you have the body type. Andrew Baggett wants to know, appreciate your support. Are we going after any safeties? Yes. The names have not been given to me, which lets me know that, they're working quietly on that front. But they certainly understand that there's a tremendous need of safety. There's no question about that safety is a major, major priority for the Canes. That one is a little more quiet. So I'm not trying to hold things from you, Andrew. I don't know. I just kind of got the wink. Hey, we're working on it. Rich 2X, appreciate you always. What about Jakeem Jackson, the Florida transfer? That one's looking like LSU. So Corey Raymond recruited him to Florida. Corey Raymond went back to LSU as the defensive backs coach. So it looks like Corey Raymond may be able to get Jakeem Jackson back as a long corner to LSU and just kind of, rekindle that relationship. But appreciate you.
As we're taking questions here, should we let people know?
Oh, hold on one second. Oh, yes, give me 1 second. So Stephen Avea, appreciate you for the question here. You think DT Silver still visiting? Is Keyshawn Silver from Kentucky? We're still in the mix there. So that one, I was told that one we are still in the mix on that one. But get your questions in. So Pete, give it to him while I get the questions in.
So this Q&A segment today is brought to you by our friends at Sala, Astorita, and Cox. Of course, a boutique law firm specializing on securities, regulatory matters, broker-dealer, and investment advisor regulation, white-collar criminal defense, complex commercial litigation, and securities arbitration litigation. Our firm aggressively represents clients throughout the nation. Contact us now, 561-989-9080, or visit us online at salalaw.com.
And, Jim Sala, they got to put him in the Hall of Fame for all he does for Hurricanes football, Hurricanes baseball, Hurricane athletics. He told me he wanted to name this Q&A Pimpin' and Simpin'. I don't know why. He just said, let's call it the Pimpin' and Simpin' Q&A segment. So shout out to Jim Sala. So let's get your questions in. What do we got, Pete?
Eldridge Primus asking us a couple times if we like Markeith Williams. I think you and I have been fans of his since coming out of high school, but obviously there's a reason he's not seeing the field right now. The weight gain, the physicality, I think that's probably what's been holding him back from really being a down and down out contributor. Coverage wise, I've always thought he could be very helpful back there as a free safety type of guy who can cover a lot of ground. But again, I just don't think they really have trusted his tackling and physicality up to this point.
Yeah, I think exactly. You hit the nail on the head, Pete. The size, the weight, the ability to tackle. Those have been the questions, but he's played a lot this year just because of need. There's no other safeties. I think he's going to play a big role in this bowl game as well. You got 2 NFL wide receivers for Iowa State. It's the strength of their team. So you need someone with range over the top to make sure they're not burning you on big plays. Obviously, the secondary has been a major issue for the Canes. Big opportunity for Markeith to show that he's part of the future because we really do need him to step up. But the reason he hasn't played as much as I'm sure he would like, weight gain, physicality, tackling overall.
Interesting question here by Gio. Can you talk a little bit about what a typical talent portal evaluation process looks like from the staff perspective?
It depends on how much they've done on the player before. Sometimes these are guys that they were recruited. So there's a recruiting knowledge of the player to start, that base of knowledge, that base of relationship. If it's a totally new player, you may have a lower level staffer watch the film and then present it to someone higher in the totem pole.
And I know for a fact that a lot of the quote unquote lower level staffers, the recruiting department, they kind of have conferences divided up amongst them that they are sort of advanced scouts for during the season. So they're kind of looking for standouts and things of that nature. So they've already kind of sifted through a lot of the top guys, and they're familiar with them before they even hit the portal. And this is without even any, back channeling or anything like that, right? This is legitimately just like being ready and aware for if a guy like this did hit the portal. And a lot of reports are already made mid-season on players that, you have an idea that if they're playing well at a lower level school, or maybe you got to have a radar on them. It doesn't matter where they're at, really. But of course, you have your eyes on certain teams and certain players, without a doubt.
No doubt about that. And the good thing about there's a lot of players in the portal, but there's not so many compared to like baseball or basketball, where, in football, off the top if someone's even close to caliber for what you need, right? There's some guys that jump in the portal that you just are not going to be up to par. Baseball and basketball, you're talking about a lot of kids that can play at a lot of schools, because you have more teams that are Division I, first of all, and those teams have more parity with the top teams. So that's a tough job and requires a lot. I think football's easier just because there's less talent that can play there. So you know who you need to watch, and then from there you sift it down.
Some comments here about CJ Hurd from FAU. I guess that was when you were talking about your
I haven't seen him linked to Miami. He had some visits set up, so let me just pull it up because it was recently reported he had a few visits set up. Lower level type teams, the P4, but not the top. So he's visiting Vanderbilt and Virginia to start his tour. I think Georgia Tech is also interested. There's reports he was going to visit there yesterday. Georgia Tech, of course, they beat us and they almost beat Georgia, so maybe I shouldn't say they're lower tier. But that's the kind of schools after CJ Hurd at this point. Of course, again, Miami needs a safety, so if not multiple. So you hope that their evaluations get you somebody that they feel good about and that they're not scrambling there. I don't think they are based on what I'm hearing, but it's clearly a need. You got to get an impact safety. And for my money, my priority at safety, IQ, physicality, and consistent physicality. You need somebody there who can set the tone with their aggression, with their play style, and then know what they're doing. Not everybody's going to be Sean Taylor. You're going to get guys that can't turn their hips as well as you would like. Maybe they can't cover the slot as well as you'd like. I mean, you'd love everybody to be Malachi Starks from Georgia, but that's not realistic. If you're picking some traits that you want at the expense of others, to me, do they play fast? Do they play hard? Do they set a tone? And are they smart? And can they get guys to the ground in the open field? If you do all those things, to me, you're a priority. I keep using Jaquan Jackson as an example.
Johnson.
You were ready for that. I keep using Jaquan Johnson as an example because he was a 7th-round pick. You know, it's not like you're saying, hey, I want Sean Taylor at safety or at Reed. But the way he played, to me, is what you need, more so than the physical tools.
Comment here from Omar. Well, it's a comment and then a question. Malik Rozier has been vocal that Emory Williams is the guy the locker room wants. I know we've all discussed QB portal ad nauseum. Could that be an issue with respect to Mateer or anyone else? I think, D, you and I have heard similar things. The locker room, they definitely like Emory. Now, I think we've heard this discussion before in recent years where certain guys are wanted by the locker room, and that has no bearing on whether or not they're the right guy for the job. I'm not saying that's the case with Emory. But Emory's a very well-liked guy in the locker room. At the end of the day, if they do bring someone in, right, whoever comes in has to do their job just like Cam Ward did. Remember that we heard from the beginning, came in and asserted himself as a leader immediately, right? We can't just think that's going to be the case with whoever's next. So it's on whoever's next. Again, if it's an outside quarterback, right? But again, the locker room wanting one guy or another really doesn't sway me to say, well, we should go with this guy.
Yeah, and look, like Pete said, they're not even here yet. So if there's a battle and the outside quarterback clearly wins, everybody will know it. If Emory wins, then what are we even talking about? So not unusual. This kind of like when a coach gets fired, everybody wants the offensive coordinator, the D coordinator to get the job. You know, I mean, these are how these things go. Now, the difference with Emory is that if he stays in Miami and if they bring a quarterback in, number one, that's not a guarantee. And if Emory stays to battle with that quarterback, he'll get a chance to win the job. There's people in Miami, everybody I talk to in Miami thinks they can win with Emory, and they all like Emory a lot and think he's good. They're still exploring transfer portal quarterbacks, and me and Pete on the outside, we really focus on that. But as far as the team, they believe Emory can get the job done. And if he's here, he'll have every opportunity to be the starter. As far as, from a competition standpoint, my view is that I think athleticism is what he has to show. It's hard to show in a practice setting when they can't hit you. But he's been tearing up in practice, and a lot of players have told me this guy is the guy. And there's a lot of coaches that feel the exact same way. So it's such an important position. You don't want to mess around. I don't want to find out on whatever day Notre Dame is, Labor Day weekend, that we don't have a quarterback. I'd love that to be settled on Green Tree with the most competition possible. And if it's Emory Williams, we're riding with Emory and hoping he brings us number 6.
Everyone's asking for a D coordinator change. A-Rob says, bring in Brennan Marion with that go-go offense. I don't know, man. Brennan Marion's offense was held to 7 points against Boise the other day. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the number 1 offense in the country, one of the best offenses of the past decade. So I like our offensive coordinator. If he goes somewhere, I'd probably want to keep it similar. Air raid passing concepts, mirror ball, really running the running game, which he did. That's how it's divided here. And then, whoever is the quarterback coach and the passing game coordinator calling the plays. But the running game, that's a heavy involvement from Mirabal and Cristobal. And look, you see the results. It led the ACC in yards per carry, and it would have led the SEC in the Big Ten in yards per carry, on top of being dominant in short yardage. This was a great running game. That will stay the same. And Shannon Dawson leaves, which I've received no indication that's happening, but of course, always a possibility with an offensive coordinator. I wouldn't go too far from what you've done successfully this year. Number 1 offense in the entire nation. That's
an interesting story, D, really, because I think like a month and a half ago or so, all of us Canes fans were kind of like Yeah, Dawson, with the way the season's going, is probably gone. Just going to probably get a head coaching job. But I don't know what's out there right now for him. I know that Southern Miss was a big rumor, right? I'm sure that there's going to be other schools that call him about offensive coordinator openings, but you'd have to think that he's earned himself a raise with the performance that we just saw here if he decided to stay at Miami. And like, I think as the days go on here, it's more likely that he stays than leaves. Not that I've heard anything, but that's just how I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, Pete, I know you're real tuned into these kind of things. I mean, should we expect many more coaching changes on the firing side of things?
I would be very surprised at this point, especially because the way that the timetable with signing day has moved up too. Like, that stuff's already happened, but I don't know.
Truth over falsehoods asking, do you think we try to lure Surtain away from our little sister FSU? I don't know. I think you have to see. First of all, you have guys in place now, so you're assuming that they leave. Which, look, based on the way the season went, you could see changes there. I've said I expect defensive changes. Just my prediction. So let's say there's changes on the staff. I probably lean towards letting whoever the defensive coordinator is my opinion. This is not info. This is my opinion. I'd like the defensive coordinator to be more of a head coach of the defense, where they're charged with instilling the culture of the defense, the identity of the defense, the way it looks and feels, and you give them a little bit of autonomy, assuming it's someone you trust and that has earned that. That's why you're hiring them. A head coach on the defense, to me, is the way to go, where it's someone that, again, is an alpha. This is the way I'm going to do it. These are my guys. These are the players I want to do what I want to do. And I'm going to put this defense on the field that looks the way it's supposed to look. Even if everybody wants Georgia and, 5 first rounders on defense every year, who doesn't want that? But even before you get to that point, it should look a certain way and act a certain way and play a certain way, right? That to me is what you want on defense, is a defense that you turn on the tape and they're going to play hard. They're going to run to the football. They're going to hit hard. They're going to just be smart, right? And then the talent fills in to that framework and continuously improves. Right now, we have no defensive identity whatsoever, kind of a mishmash of things. So I would like a head coach on defense who then picks his own guys if you go that direction. That's my opinion. But we'll see. As far as Surtain, FSU, the guy was a great player. He's a great high school coach. FSU's defensive backs didn't really get much better this year. I think more than that, he hasn't really, landed anybody that's very good recruiting wise. I am generally skeptical of NFL players as recruiters because, yes, they have credibility with the players, but you got to kiss butt a little bit in this job. It's like, it's hard work to recruit high school kids. Mario texts kids all day. And when you're an all-pro player, when you have money and you had success, I don't know how, and I'm not saying this about Surtain, just in general. I don't know how hungry some of these former NFL players are that were successful, that were stars. This guy was a star player.
Hey, they're going to get on you in the comments, man. Jason Taylor, how about that?
Look, they've talked about his hunger as a recruit, as a coach, as a positive. But it's hard. It's hard to stay motivated. It's just human nature. Like, if I'm an all-pro player, I'm going to kiss the ass of a 17-year-old kid who's done nothing. I don't know. That seems hard to me. But, what do I know? That's just my personal view of the situation. I want the if we get a new defensive staff or defensive coordinator, I would like him to really build out the key parts of his staff the way he wants it to be. Maybe he keeps guys that are here, but let him dictate it and have him accountable for the way it looks. Because you don't want someone, you put together an all-star staff of defensive position coaches, then you have a defensive coordinator that doesn't know these guys, and it's a mess. I think you saw that very much the first year where you had Kevin Steele, a good defensive coordinator, knows what he's doing, been around the block. Adai, who is coaching in the NFL, he knows what to do with DBs. He had 4 NFL DBs. You look at that. This is 2022 now we're talking about. You had Cam Kitchens, who's 2-time, as a rookie, 2-time NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Not rookie, Player of the Week on defense, having a great rookie year. James Williams playing linebacker, right? So he's moved positions, but for college, ACC, he was good enough at safety. And, of course, he's in the NFL as a linebacker for the Titans, had 3 tackles last week. Tyreek Stevenson, one of the mistake on the Hail Mary aside, one of the better young corners in the NFL. DJ Ivey, who again, how many bullets did we take for him telling people he's going to be an NFL corner? When I'm watching Monday Night Football, he's there playing for the Bengals, not only on special teams, but also on defense at corner. So that was our secondary in 2022. And it was like 110th, I think, in passing efficiency defense. I think a big reason for that is because you had a defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach that weren't on the same page. Now, by the same token, this year, you got Guidry and Chevis who are on the same page, and it's still bad. Talent not as good. So I don't know. And it's been a problem that we've tried to solve for so many years with so many issues. You look at Mike Rump. Mike Rump was criticized a ton, right, for everything under the sun. And I think on the recruiting side, look, some of that was justified. Same thing we talked about. Rump's a first-round corner. Is he going to be kissing these guys' butts? Probably not. But with Rump, we actually had our best pass defenses since like the early 2000s. All those teams with Sheldrick Redwine, Jaquan Johnson, Michael Jackson, Corn Elder, D. Delaney, however you want to mix them up, Adrian Colbert. Those were our best pass defenses in decades. So Rumpf kind of got a raw deal, but the recruiting was a real problem. We're suffering from that now. I'm rambling a bit just because I'm struggling for answers on how to fix this secondary. You just need good players and you need people on the same page because communication and talent is the name of the game on the back end.
And just to clarify what I said when you asked me a moment ago, D, in terms of the coaching moves, I think there's still going to be a lot of position change moves and coordinator moves to come. But head coaching wise, I'm not sure there's even any open jobs right now, unless I'm missing one. I was just trying to figure it out. But, we've been tracking it pretty closely on our other channel. And I think most of the jobs are filled right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's always a surprise.
Or someone jumps to the NFL. Maybe
someone jumps to the NFL.
If Ryan Day somehow gets a surprise NFL opportunity, which has kind of been rumored, like, okay, then you have the Ohio State job open, and then the carousel gets working pretty quick.
And look, sometimes Shannon Dawson's not going to be the head coach of Ohio State, but if Ryan Day gets fired, maybe another, you get like people leaving to replace the other jobs, and then a lesser job comes open for Shannon Dawson.
Remember the story that came out last year about when Saban made his move? Basically, it affected like hundreds of coaches across the country because so many dominoes fell because of that. Yeah.
So we'll see, but I think we're pretty stable. Look, there's always like a sex scandal or something like that. There's always something going on that at least
bullying scandal somewhere,
a hazing deal. So we'll see. But for right now, I think if you're Shannon Dawson, you have the number 1 offense in the country. You have top 10 offense at Houston. Your resume is looking pretty good. If you can make this work with the next quarterback, who's not Cam Ward, you should be in line, in my view, for like
a good P4 job.
A good P4 job. You got to be the best offensive coordinator resume-wise in the country at that point. So, because it's not just what he did with Cam Ward. Remember, Clayton Thune and Tank Dell at Houston, that was a top 10 offense. And everybody was saying, is it Dana Holgerson? Is it Dawson? Well, he did that. He went to Miami. And by the way, to me, the biggest feather in the cap of Shannon Dawson is not the best offense in the country this year. Is that last year they went from like the hundreds with Gaddis to the top 25 in pretty much every category. It didn't feel like a top 25 offense because we had so many turnovers. We were in the bottom part of the country in turnovers. Of course, Tyler Van Dyke was throwing it to everybody that was not wearing orange and green. So it didn't feel like a great offense last year. But when you look at yards per attempt, scoring, a lot of important categories, it was a massive leap from the year before with Gaddis, with Dawson. So this guy can coach. We'd love to keep him around for another year. And if he can get it done with the next quarterback, now, like you said, Pete, you're talking about higher level jobs right out the gate.
FTW 305 MDC has asked this question a couple of times. Why not go after uncommitted Opelousas, Louisiana running back Deshaun Ford and Kentrell Reinhardt in high school recruiting to fill running back depth?
I got to look into those guys more. I know we talked about yesterday, Avant, the running back from Tulsa, who jumped in the portal, receiving interest, which to me, that kind of idea made sense, which is not only, because it's hard to recruit a 4th-string running back or a 5th-string running back. That's kind of hard to do because you usually recruit running backs with playing time out the portal. That
reminds me of the kid from UAB they brought in. Who was it? Luscious Stanley a few years ago.
He was off the street. Yeah. I mean, that was a whole unique situation. He was like a walk-on. That was a crazy one. But
But that's because it's hard. How do you tell a guy, yeah, you know what? You're going to be the fourth guy on the totem pole for a running back, which it's like you can make it as a running back from a lot of different places. So they're most of the time just like, I'd rather just get the ball.
Yeah. So exactly right. And I think if you get a kick returner like Avant, who's a top 10 kick returner in the nation last year as a true freshman, he could start at that position, help your team improve right away, get on the field, get the ball in his hands, and then he's in the depth chart at running back competing. That to me makes sense. Whether it's him or someone else, that model to me makes a lot of sense. We'll see what it is. But, those players you mentioned, FTW, those guys might end up being superstars. I got to check them out. I'm not familiar with those two individuals that you mentioned. 1,500, by the way, plus, man. Like and subscribe. These lunches have been hot. The chat's hot. All the portal questions are cooking, man. So we appreciate everybody joining. By the way, if you like this kind of content, Pete, tell them they don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So, guys, as we've been saying all week here, we launched a new YouTube page today or this week, Group Chat Sports, and it's basically we're going live every day, pretty much right after the show, and going over everything that's happening in the portal, all the coaching changes. So it's a lot of national news. If you can't catch the entire live show that we do, we kind of break these up into separate videos if there's a certain topic that you're interested in. So go check it out. We're almost at 300 subscribers now, D. So appreciate everyone who's been helping us out with that, and go over there, check it out. I'm going to drop the link in the chat now in a second, and we'll be going live here pretty shortly from this page. I'll tweet the link out from Kane's Insight after this show.
Yep. So let's get some more questions here. Yeah. Well, that's Aaron mentioned, Dan Mullen back at UNLV, interesting fit. We talked about it. I think he's going to kill it there. I think it's a perfect fit for the guys. You can go to the playoff every year with the current format. If you build the power there, they're already in the championship game. He's an elite play caller. And I think with the portal, even elite play caller as head coach, you can kind of convince these portal quarterbacks who are at that UNLV level, maybe a little above, to come there, rehabilitate their career.
And look,
do their thing.
He said Rich Rod going to pull the Florida Tide again to West Virginia. We had that same exact conversation in that segment yesterday as well, man. They were kind of like the Louisville for a while, just a thorn in Miami's side. And it was like a lot of times at Miami, it was guys at Miami didn't necessarily recruit or academic reasons or things of that nature, too small, and they just always seem to get guys. Noel Devine was always one that hurt, even though, Miami never seemed like they were really in the picture there.
Comment here from same guy from Arizona comment. He said, didn't feel like Dawson gave us an identity on offense. Not sure if it's because Cam Ward plays loose. I think if you're looking for an identity of this offense going forward, and I said this, so on the KansasSite.com message boards, I know I'm plugging again, 7 million posts and counting. There's heated debates, right? Always people going back and forth. It's a forum, so you post, someone responds to you. Everybody else kind of agrees with somebody, agrees with the other guy. It's a debate forum on top of being a news forum, all free, KansasSite.com. So one of the big debates was, should we be an air raid team? Should we be a Mario physical team, right? And what I said was, you don't have to pick. You could be like Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley and the Baden-Bath, the offensive line coach, where you had a big, physical, super talented offensive line, NFL guys. Then you had quarterbacks that could get the job done, great receivers, great running backs, tight ends that could block and catch, and you were a dominant offense that could play any style with balance. They could run, they could pass, they could push you out of the way, they could pass protect, they could do it all. Lincoln Riley's gotten away from that at USC because his offensive line is not as good. But this offense here in Miami, to me, looks like that. I think you can have that model going forward because Mario and Mirabal are going to have the offensive line look in a certain way. They've proven it over their careers. Pretty consistent from Oregon to here. You can recruit skill guys in Miami because usually you can, especially if the offense is rolling. And then quarterback, either a guy like a Luke Nickel develops and an Emery develops, or you're bringing in portal guys every year, which is more what Oklahoma did. You can keep it rolling. That, to me, is the identity of the offense. The identity of this offense, what you hope to repeat, is when you're playing the run, we're passing it. When you're playing the pass, we're running it. When it's short yardage, we're running it. And we can hit explosives. And on third down, we're going to consistently be in good down and distance because we can run, because we don't take losses, that we're going to be an elite third down conversion team. This is one of the best third down conversion teams of the decade this year, anywhere in the nation. And because we're balanced, it's hard to defend us because we can get you every single way. I think that's the identity you want to maintain on offense. And certainly this offense, that's the identity. Cam Ward's a very unique player. Not every quarterback's going to run around for, 10 seconds throwing the ball. Some guys will get rid of it earlier. That will help you in some ways. You're going to lose some of the Cam Ward magic because he's Cam Ward and there's only one. But even with little changes at quarterback, I think that fundamental approach of big, athletic, premier offensive line who doesn't need anybody else to do their job. They do their jobs because they're good. Then their ability to do their own job makes the quarterback's life easier, makes the running back life easier, make the receiver's life easier, and then you just play what the other team does. That's to me the identity of this offense and going forward.
All right, D, coming up on an hour here, so we'll get a couple more questions here before we wrap things up. Remember to like and subscribe, almost at 1,700 here. Kyle asking if there's any chance Akeem Mesidor comes back. We talked about it yesterday. I think it's trending towards a good chance of that happening. I don't think his draft stock is in a great place right now. Come back, get paid. I mean, he had it in a decent spot the year before he got hurt there, and inconsistent this year. Showed up a bit at the end of the year, but I think he would like to put together a more consistent campaign.
Yeah, no, he makes sense to come back, and he'd help a lot because of versatility. By the way, I just put in the chat. It's also on Twitter. It's also on the website. The official Canes Insight playlist. Me and Mike Ryan on Wednesdays are always picking our songs of the week. I've been using different kinds of songs for the preseason podcast. I like older songs, whether it's, hip hop, soul, country, rock. Tend to go before the 90s or 90s or before. Mike Ryan likes more modern stuff. So the playlist is kind of all over the place, but people are always asking us to put a playlist together. Some people say stop picking songs, but some people say put a playlist together. So we put something together. Spotify, Apple Music, Canes Insight. If you're into music and want to explore a little bit, check it out. Pretty easy to see which songs are mine and which songs are Mike's. But it was a lot of fun putting that thing together.
The thing's all over the place, man.
I know it's hard. But if you know me well enough to know where the UGK and the George Jones is coming from.
Yep.
And the Elvis. All right, well, here we go. We got Kyle says we had a top 25-ish offense last season with TVD playing Santa Claus. I agree with that. It's that if you look at this offense and say this is Cam Ward, you can't replicate it. I hear that. But look at last year's offense and say, can we build on that and be a better version of that 7-5 team, 7-6 team that probably should have been a 10-win team if you weren't throwing the ball away or forgetting to kneel. Can you be a better version of that? That to me is more what you're looking for. Spo One World saying Mario's waiting for the playoffs to end. Portal will be packed with dogs. There will be some players available in the portal, and that's something to keep in mind. The portal might close, but if you're a playoff team or a bowl team, you still get 5 days after your game ends to declare. That's a whole nother wave that's not subject to any deadlines. It's based on the last game. I want to talk about some folks that are always open for business, and that is the Miami Hurricane Team Store, the official apparel provider of the University of Miami, MiamiHTS.com. If you're not local, if you are, right across the street from the University of Miami next to the Thesis Hotel. Promo code INSIGHT20, get 20% off your first item. It's all the official gear. They got the holiday gift guide, so you don't have to think. Just click that holiday gift guide. Gifts for him, gifts for her, gifts for the kid. They'll tell you exactly what to get. You pick, you buy it, you wrap it up. You got your Christmas shopping taken care of, or you can get it for yourself, especially with the winter. You want to get the winter clothes. They will take care of you. MiamiHTS.com or the store right in front of the University of Miami. Promo code INSIGHT20 works at both spots. 20% off your first item.
All right. Well, if you guys want to get more from us here in terms of the national landscape and portal and coaching moves and things of that nature, check us out on Group Chat Sports here in about half an hour or so. We will be back on Monday talking portal, man. More moves will definitely be made by then. I'm sure we'll have a ton of updates. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out CanesInsight.com. Go Canes.
Go Canes.